Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome so much to our second masterclass. I'm so happy to welcome you all here with us today. We're going to be recording this masterclass, and we'll be putting it on live within the next 48 hours or so. I am Jennifer van Riet, and joining us today is Irina Muir and Jane Moores and Reinhard Moores, and we're going to be speaking about navigating education and working from home. Jane, over to you.
Thanks, Jennifer. So I think I do see some familiar faces already in our chat box. And so for those of you who maybe don't know us, this is not what we normally do. Jennifer normally works in sourcing and in helping companies to track down people that they wouldn't be able to track down on their own. And I normally work in training companies to hire the right people. Reinhard works in coaching, so at least that's related to his topic today. And Irina is a pre-primary and grade R teacher, so that's why we have them today. But the reason why Jennifer and I wanted to run these webinars is because we thought we're in such a new time. It's so unprecedented. We're not able to carry on with business as usual every day in the way that we're normally used to doing that. And so we're hearing a lot of our clients and a lot of our friends saying, help, I'm trying to work from home. It's chaos, especially if they have young kids. So we thought, well, what can we do to help? So that's why we thought, we ran a working remotely webinar last Friday. And now we've got the kids thrown in with the schools closing. And so we thought, let's run something where we can get some expert advice and encouragement for those of us who are thrown into a new situation, being working from home, to see how we can best navigate it. So welcome to everybody. I know, as Jennifer said, we are going to record it because I know there's many people who'd said to us, oh, I can't make it, but I'll listen to it afterwards. One parent said, I'll listen to it, play, pause, play, pause, play, pause, while she's with her young kids. But let's jump into it. We're going to start off with talking to Irina, who, as I say, is a grade R and pre-primary teacher. She's been in this space for 16 years. She currently works for Oakhurst Pre-Primary, and she also has 3 wonderful daughters of her own. And she's also run ECD projects. So she's really got a lot of experience in working with children. So I thought maybe an appropriate place to start would be, Irina, asking you, how do you think the children are feeling about a time like this?
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me into this space. Just want to correct that I'm working at Oakhurst Girls Primary School.
Sorry.
No, not a problem. I run the grade R there. So I think for our children, they pretty much sometimes feel exactly like we do. What is going on? Why am I not playing with my friends like I usually do? Why is mom and dad at home, but we're not on holiday? It can be a very confusing time for the children as well. So I think the biggest thing for us is, just as we are feeling anxious, children feel anxiety as well. And we can either make it easier on them, or we can just let them go in the rabbit hole down with us as we deal with our own anxieties. And I think, it's such an uncharted area that we're going into. Timing, it's not like we've had months of, okay, now how do I structure my life around this? What do I do? Our normal support systems that we've used to have during holiday time, that's been pulled out from under us, So we have to figure out a new normal, a new rhythm in our families. We need to figure out, how do we actually communicate with our children? What is going on? Why do we need to have the social distancing? But it also opens up such a wonderful time for us as families to really reconnect, to connect differently with our children, to look at what we can do differently and better. When we've always said, oh, I wish I had time to. Well, some of us will have the time to now. And I think it's figuring out things as we go. None of us have been in this situation before. Even the parents that have done working remotely and are actually amazing with it. They've never been with their children constantly 24/7 and no support in a lot of situations. So I think for children, they are feeling, some of them are blissfully unaware and just like, oh, this is really cool. This is wonderful. People are around me the whole time. Others are extremely stressed. And if I think of just even before the lockdown was announced and children being able to be out still with their parents, you know, they were afraid. Some were definitely afraid you would get closer to them and they would hide behind, even confident children, hide behind their parents because what about these germs? You know, what's going to happen? So I think the biggest thing for me is if we can take a deep breath, make sure that we communicate with our children at their level, try and explain to them what's going on. That would be the most helpful thing at the moment.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is so true around, you've touched on it a couple of times about how we are is affecting our children. Yeah. And we need to be able to take a deep breath and be able to meet them where they're at. Perhaps some of them are anxious, perhaps some of them are blissfully unaware. And that's why we thought it would be a good idea to pull Reinhard into our webinar today as well, because as an holistic executive coach, Reinhard works with people all the time. And often the topic that comes up is anxiety. How do I deal with my own anxiety? How do I deal with my own stress? And I think I'm hearing you say that as a parent, that's going to be of primary importance if we want to be able to help our children get through this time positively.
Definitely.
So Reinhard, I know you have many years working with people on different levels, in a professional capacity and, you know, sometimes outside of work as well. Perhaps you could fill us in a little bit around how do we deal with our own anxiety and stress so that we can take that breath and help our children through this time.
Okay, Jane, let me do this. So, yeah, I think three things, Jane. One is, or let me say it like this. When I thought about the topic, I thought, okay, so what I'm going to say about, you know, helping people to get through this, you know, and then I thought, I wrote down here, I said, 3 stages of survival. And then I thought, okay, let me cross out survival and say 3 attitudes towards survival, you know. And but I think it's very important to understand these things. You can have 3 attitudes, you know, because this is really not a normal thing. To pretend it's normal is like, I don't want to say insane, but it's almost insane, you know. I mean, it's not normal. It's not normal for the whole world to be locked down. It's not normal to be 3 weeks at home, you know, everybody in the same room. I mean, some of us are fortunate, have bigger houses, but I mean, it's let's just face it, it's going to be tough. So there are 3 ways, I think, and this is my opinion to do it. The one is panic, you know. So I think we've seen some of that in maybe the past couple of days, people running to the shops and buying everything. I've never seen so many men in a hardware store than yesterday, you know. I know all the jokes and you know, going around, and the men have no excuse now, you know. It's like, I've seen all these things on Facebook, you know. Yeah, you know, where the guy said, sure, honey, when I have time, I'll fix it. Yeah. And now obviously everybody is at the hardware store. So I said to Jane, well, Jane's my wife, but she's wonderful. I said, you know, I don't know how many men is actually going to say, listen, honey, I can't talk to you now. I'm so busy, you know, fixing all these things. You know, maybe we can talk once this is over, you know. So just beware. But anyway, there's so much panic going around, and I think that's the one thing. And you can be in lockdown, go, you know, and that's obviously not what you want to do. The other thing is what I would call, you know, Afrikaans has a word called vasbyt, and maybe the best English translation is grin and bear. So you can sit it out, you know. So that part of sitting it out is sort of, you know, trying to make it as normal as one can. So tried, again, me and myself and you talked this morning, we work remotely often, but to keep that hours going, so try to do that as much as time and circumstance allow you to do that, so that's grin and bear, sit it out, so there's ways of doing that, but that's like, okay, let's just get through this 21 days and get to the other side. That's the grin and bear. Now you're not panicking. You're actually making lists. You're doing all the stuff you want to do. That's grin and bear. But there is a third way to do this, and I would want to call that meaningful. And it's in times like this that I draw one of my favorite characters, Dr. Frankl, closer. And Viktor Frankl wrote a book when he was in Auschwitz in the Second World War. He was a psychiatrist, and the book was published just after the war. And one of the things he wrote, and he talks about, his whole thing is about meaning and survival. And so I'm going to read the sentence to you. It says, "Man is not free from conditions, be they biological or psychological or sociological in nature, but he is and always remains free to take a stand towards these conditions. He always retains the freedom to choose his attitude toward them." So Frankl wrote this in Auschwitz. Now you think, sheesh, we have Corona. Imagine being in Auschwitz. You can't go to the gas chamber today. That was Auschwitz. We're not saying, hey, I might get the coronavirus. No, that's terrible. Nobody wants to get the coronavirus. So what does he mean? He says, well, your attitude towards something, you will have the freedom of mind to choose that. And one of the other things he talked about here is the concept of meaning, and they tie together. Let's understand it. Very important to understand it. He says life can be meaningful in three ways. He said, one, first, to what we give to life. Two, and what we take from the world, the values, the good stuff we take from society in the world. And three, the stand that we take towards fate, we no longer can change. So what does he mean by this? If you try to be happy, through this time, then you're sort of in that second stage, what we talk about, grin and bear. Let me just get through it. Let me keep the kids calm. And, that might work. I hope it works for you. But there's even a better way, the meaningful way. And what he says meaning is, if you work from yourself outwards. Now we're talking about what can I do for my kids, for myself, for others, for the neighbor. Who can I phone? As soon as you put your energy and your creativity towards others, towards a cause, then you start getting meaning through tough times. But if you were always like, woe is me, either panic or let me just grin and bear, when you start focusing externally from yourself outwards, that's when these things get what I would love to call meaningful survival. And it's in a whole different plane than happiness. And it's not a mind thing, it's stuff you do. It's the people you phone, it's the stuff, even if you can't phone, write. If you could write children's stories, this is the time where you invest in giving, what Frankl talked about in Auschwitz. He had one of his patients. Now, he was a prisoner in the camp. So when he talks about patients, he talks about fellow prisoner patients, and he said, he encouraged the one guy, he was like suicidal, and that he said, well, hang on, what can you work towards? And he said, oh, there's this, books of geography that I'm a PhD in geography, I also want to finish. He said, well, why don't you put your thoughts together towards that, I mean, is anything towards out from the self meaningful to society? And I think if one can focus on those things, it's much more easier. It's much easier to do well through these times than just, let's forget panic, but even grin and bear. So I know it's a little bit long, but that's the summarized version.
Okay, no, I think that's. I love what you're saying, Reinhard, and I even tried to just make notes because I couldn't hear you, Kev, clearly all the time. And Crowdcast is saying, "Oh, I've typed for too long," so I'll leave that to Jennifer to figure out, since she's our tech person. But I think that's so true. It is about, it's almost a, sometimes when we panic, we focus on ourselves, how we're feeling, what we need to be able to calm down. And what you're saying is it's actually about what we can give and what we can share and what we can do for others that will help us calm down. And I think, Irina, probably as a grade R and pre-primary teacher in all of your years of experience, you have a lot of very practical ideas on how to give to and how to plan things, if you like, so that you can.
Jennifer?
I'm here. Oh dear, we seem to have run into a typical gremlin that can happen when you are online or remote. We seem to have lost Jane there. So I'm just going to continue on this vein and invite Irina to give us some advice and her view on how we can make this time that we have meaningful to our children, how we can teach them to teach us. Yeah. And how to learn and be excited about all of this.
Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer. I know that for many parents it is like, but I've got to get my job done. And now the school is expecting me to be a homeschooler as well and things like that. So I think it's just to remember that none of us have been in this situation. So we all have to be kind to ourselves first so that we can be kind to other people. And as Reinhard said, what can I give to the people out there as well? And I think it starts with us in our families sitting down. I think a lot of parents are coming up with plans, but they exclude their children instead of including them to see how do we actually deal with a crisis. You know, getting children to learn that things don't always go their way. You know, today's kids are so used to, I cry, I get. I throw a tantrum, I'll get what I want. Or I want things done the way I like it done. And it is such a wonderful opportunity for us as parents to take hold of the situation and say, we are going to discuss our family values. If our family values are to help people, then how are we going to help people in this situation? You know, we can, for instance, have a great discussion with even the young children about what is important for us. But it also helps us to then think about, but am I actually communicating that through to my work as well? You know, if my value is to be kind and to take care of people, am I actually, do the people at the office know that I might have a child that has immune compromised member in my family, for instance? You know, do they really know? Hi, Jane, you're back. Do they actually know who I am, first of all, as well? What is important to me? That I have a child maybe that has learning disabilities, and when I have to now try and help my child as well, what kind of pressure that might put on me. So I think for a lot of parents, they want to keep things as normal as possible for their children, but we are not in normal times. And I think it needs to be okay that if today worked, great. If it didn't, let's restart again tomorrow. Let's re-look at what worked. But I think for the biggest thing for me is if we have a plan that we made with our children, they feel included. They feel like they've been part of the solution as well of what we're going to be able to do during the day. You know, the fact is mom and dad might have to work, or mom is a single mom, or your partner is someone that's in working in an area where they are seen as vital and they need to be out of the house, and that puts other stresses on you again about what if they get the coronavirus and they bring it back into the house. So all of those things are things that you need to discuss with the children, with your partner, if you have a partner in the house, of how you're going to deal with it, but then include them in plans. The houses need to be clean still, but it doesn't have to be perfect. This is so good for us who likes things in certain ways, to say, okay, you're going to learn some skills that you didn't have before, and attitudes to change. So I've been thinking about, all of us have our home set up that's comfortable for us, that makes sense in normal situations. So the first thing that I would suggest is, don't think of your house as just a place where you come in the afternoons, because you're now stuck in it. You might have a garden, you might be privileged enough to have a little outside place where you can take the children. But for a lot of our families, they might just have the four walls, and rearrange things. No one's coming over to visit. So if your dining room table is not where it used to be with all the cushions exactly the same way, that's fine. Make it child friendly. Make it where you can have a workspace if you're fortunate enough to have that kind of space, or at least an area on the table that's designated for you to be able to work at if you need to be working during this time. I think, put things in place with your children about getting up time. If you need to work, if you have little children, you might want to work early in the morning and before they get up. If you have a partner, you might be able to tag team kind of working hours. But those kind of things you need to communicate with your employer as well, making sure that they understand. And if you are employer, I think you need to also realize that your employees are all going to be at different places. Emotionally, family situations will differ. So every person is going to have to figure out their new rhythm in their family, their new normal in their family, the new reality that we face. And today's might be different than tomorrow's. Today, everyone might be healthy. Tomorrow, someone might be sick. And those of us who have children and have had children, everyone is different. A child wakes up in the middle of the night and is sick. You get up during the night, but next morning feels better, so they go off to school. Now, not so much anymore. They're going to be in the house, And I know a lot of parents are feeling like, oh, the schooling, what am I going to do with my young child? Because they're not going to be in preschool, they're not going to be in primary school, grade R, whichever grade they're in. It's just breathe. You're not a homeschooler. No one is going to expect you to be a homeschooler all of a sudden. I think we have a lot that we can learn from homeschoolers, and there are amazing sites that you can get on just to get advice. But even with that, just remember that you have a job that you still have to do if you have to work remotely. So be kind to yourself. I think that's the biggest thing for me as a mom and as a wife and as a teacher. I'm trying to figure out, how am I going to connect with my little 5-year-olds, and I'm learning things that I've never done before. I'm learning to the Zoom, and we, even with our own family, my girls are, 2 of them live in different places, one in Cape Town, one in Johannesburg. So we've decided as a family, every evening we just having a video call together, and we have our 4 devices and we get to chat to each other just to connect, and I think that's what Reinhard was talking about as well, is that connection with people and what we can do for others, that's so important. It's getting your children to, instead of being able to see Granny and Grandpa, let them draw a little picture for them. Let them make a little card and show it to them over Skype, if they are so fortunate to have that, or WhatsApp, video call. And just figuring out things that you can do with your children where they can think of other children as well. You know, having little Skype dance parties with their classmates, you know, get a few of the parents to connect together. And I mean, my children in my class, we love dancing in the class. We love doing different kind of physical activities. So virtual dance parties, you know, that's something that we can start doing.
I love it.
They miss their friends. They can't understand necessarily why they can't see their friends. And especially if the friend is living next door, really makes no sense, you know, if they're so used to it. But to then bring in the kindness and the value of the family, saying that, you know what, our part of being kind to people is to give them the distance. But what can we do? And quite honestly, they'll probably come up with much better ideas than what we can as adults.
Yes,
that's just something I've learned from the little ones. There's a lot of times I'll be like, oh, what do I do? And they're like, Google it, Mrs. Muir, you know, or they'll come up with solutions that I wouldn't even have considered. And I think that's what makes it so valuable in a family, that if we listen to their voices, we'll be able to connect better with our children. And it can really be an amazing family memory building time. I mean, think of a birthday, you know. Yes, Jane.
You're making good points about involving your kids. I like that. And also about getting them outwardly focused, which is, you know, tying in with what Reinhard was saying. It helps this time to become meaningful for them as well.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to add to that, Reinhard?
Yeah, I agree with Irina. I think, you know, you got to involve the kids, you know, and that's, they've been off school for a couple of days already. You know, if there's any kids listening to this, they're going to kill me. But I mean, this is, you know, you probably watched enough Netflix by now. And how much Netflix can you watch? You know, how many episodes or whatever, you know? And I think in terms of what we just discussed before, is that actually meaningful? You know, that's back to grin and bear and barely survive. You've learned very little as a family if you stayed out of the way of your parents, or, you know, because your parents wanted to, or you wanted to as a kid, just get away from mom and dad, I'll just sit in my room. And what have you learned as a family in 21 days doing that? You know, very little. You know, so I agree with Irina, involve your children. You know, and doing stuff around the house, you know, it's very important. I mean, I know South Africa is very diverse. Some of our kids, this is just normal. They do this stuff around the house. Some of kids, this is the, you know, I talk about teaching my kids how to iron. You know, they go, what? You can iron? You know, my kids know I can iron, you know, but I mean, but yeah, many kids in South Africa do iron, so this is not new for them, you know. But many kids in South Africa have never done very little house chores. It'd be a great opportunity to learn how, you know, probably 80% of the world do live, you know, so, you know, together doing stuff. But even if you know, there's just so many chores, but doing creative stuff. And I think another thing to do is to create hope for the future. Get the kids and yourself to focus on what happens in a month's time. You know, what are we going to do? How do we prepare for that? And it's a very important thing. Have yourself and your children have a hope and a focus on the future. It's very, very important.
Yeah.
I sent a video to my cousin in Germany about last year's, we call it the Schützenfest. It's a festival in the little town my family comes from, and there's a Oompa band, and I sent the video, and I said to her, you know, until we meet again, you know. So I mean, you gotta create that sort of thing, which brings me to connectivity. You know, I mean, obviously, there's different people have different things: Zoom, Skype, WhatsApp, but don't just phone and talk. How are you? Obviously, you want to make sure people are safe, are physically safe, emotionally safe. That you definitely want to start off with. But then have conversations about stuff that happened in the past. What you want to still do. Don't talk about So you want to keep having, talk about last Christmas, talk about, Eid, that's coming up. What you're going to do, depending, what festival and what background you're in. But do that and talk to people a lot. We are social animals, if you want to call it. Somebody say, "Oh, we're not animals." Okay, we're social human beings. Even introverts are social. So connect with people. Talk to your family, your friends that you think might be lonely. I have an aunt. She's alone. So I want to make sure that she has enough data, that we're in contact with her. Jane's dad is alone. Okay, he's in an old age home, but again, he can't run around the whole old age home, So, I mean, definitely have that human contact, even if it's only via voice or video, whatever it is. But we have to stay in contact. That's very, very important.
Yeah. And I think communicating is what I'm hearing coming through from both of you, the importance of communicating, and maybe communicating more than we were used to communicating when everything was just running as normal and there were a lot of things that were automatic. Irina actually told me such a funny story. Irina, you must tell the story of one of the parents that you were involved with, where they didn't communicate how they were trying to work from home. So please tell that story. It made me laugh so much.
Sure. I think communication is so important, because it's also, and I'll definitely tell the story now, but it's also that, we usually have roles in the household, and, the mom does this, or the dad does this, or this child does that. But now we need to communicate a lot more, because now mom has to do this and work at home, and it's confusing. And why can't I just come and sit on mom's lap when I want to? So those kind of things are all confusing times. So you actually need to over communicate and really try and think through the details and not assume. I think we, as human beings, we assume a lot. We assume what our bosses are expecting from us, for instance, during this time. And maybe that's not what they are assuming or they're expecting of us. But you won't know if you don't communicate through that. But the story, let me tell you the story. So one of the moms, this is while they were still allowed to go out as well, they have self-isolated, but the mom had to get to a meeting. So dad was in charge of the children, and it's a 3-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old. And dad was very busy doing his work and did a great job looking after the children. But then a business call came in that he desperately needed to take. But with a 3-year-old, if you don't really have a plan for those kind of calls, you never know what they can get up to. So mom arrives back from her meeting and she walks in, and the 3-year-old little girl is sitting painting herself and the very new house that they just moved in with the color fixer for the cars. Okay, so she found that little touch-up painting herself, painting the cupboard, painting the floor. And she's like, "Where's dad?" And the other two look at her and was like, "We don't know. We haven't seen him actually for a while." So they kind of look around and she's looking for him. And she eventually gets to the bedroom and he's sitting in the closet talking on his business call. And she's like, "What is going on?" So eventually they figured out that, okay, if dad needs to be on a business call, they have to figure out a different plan than just letting little 3-year-olds and 7 and 9-year-olds do whatever they want to. And I think that's what's important, is to just really communicate and have a plan. I know Reinhard said enough Netflix, a lot of kids have been doing it, but sometimes that's going to be needed. But I think even with that is that there needs to be communicated with the children that this is a different time. So there might be time, even with little ones, that you say, you know what, we don't do any screen time, or I don't like them watching anything. But it might be just that you put them and give them a little bit of screen time or extra screen time so that you can have your business call, so that you can have your conference call, without too many disruptions. Yeah. But I think, again, communicate with your work and your colleagues about what your situation is in your home, and there's lots of fun things that the children can do to keep themselves busy where they don't need to be supervised 24/7, So I've been thinking about just different things. I don't know whether you want me to share now whether
yes, I mean, I can see Jennifer
can do with the children.
Irina, yes, I see Jennifer has posted a lot of ideas in the chat box, which is amazing, and
That's
things
wonderful.
that you can do that are very positive online. But I did like what you shared the other day around, if you, for example, I liked your little robot example where you talked about the red robot and the green. Yeah, please share that. I thought it was such a good idea.
So I think, for the children, they're not used to parents being at home and having to work and not necessarily sitting on their lap or having interaction with them the whole time. So, and this can be that you can involve your children first as well, especially the little ones, and it can be like a little crafty thing that they can do is to make a red robot and a green robot. And the red one is for stop, but you discuss it with them that if mom puts or dad puts this up on the wall or on the door or on the table, depending on where you work, then that is you're busy and you're not going to be able to be disturbed. If it is a green one that goes on, then they know they can come in or come and talk to you whenever. So it makes it that it's very visual for them. But I think as well with that is they
won't leave part of it up all the time.
Sorry?
No, I was saying don't leave the red one up all the time.
No, that's what I want to say. Is that just like at work, you don't sit and work for 24 hours a day. At home, have those breaks and have it as check-in times with your children. Making sure that everything's fine. Maybe you need to do another little snack time with the children. I was talking to one of the moms and she said what she's done is in every room, she's put some toys out that stays in those kind of rooms because it also gets the children to move around. But, use the passages. Put up paper against the wall. It's wonderful for them to actually have to draw on the paper, not the wall, but to draw against the wall. It strengthens it, the shoulder girdle. It's really good for them to actually do that. Or draw a road on the wall and let them play with their cars on the wall. Then they're out of the way. They're standing, they can kneel. You can do little different activities where you can get them to put they need to do something balancing on the one foot or whatever as they play. So you can come up with some ideas with that as well. And a lot of those websites that Jennifer's put up already has got great activities for you. But I think include them in cleaning the house. The chores like the ironing. Don't let your 5-year-old iron, please. But, get them to sort out the washing. It is wonderful. It is an incredible skill that they have to learn is to sort different equipment. So at school, we'll get them to sort in colors. We'll get them to count how many of what there is. We can get them to pack it out in patterns. And instead of doing that with just little objects, they can do that with the laundry. You can get them to shade it even from darkest to lightest. You can get them to sort out, dad's black socks that all looks exactly the same. It's amazing the fine detail that they can find on those socks, ones that you didn't even think of, But I think getting them to sweep, getting them to fold the laundry, it's an incredible skill. The bilateral movements that they're going to use, crossing their midline by having to pick up things and putting it into the basket. Tidy up time. There's just so many things, but tidy up time needs to be their responsibility. It's not for them to make a mess during the day and you come and tidy up. Even
Right.
from the age of 1, they can do that. You give them a little basket and you do it with them. Or you can use it to extend their language or their maths. Let's pick up everything that begins with a P, and we put it all into a basket. So those kind of things, but it teaches life skills. And in the end, they're going to be more helpful and more grateful to know when they actually mess around, they can actually help you to keep the house tidy as well. So
wow, that was fantastic, Irina.
I mean,
I'm sorry, Jane, to jump in.
Educational.
Yeah, it's wonderful. But we are on 1:45, and I know that Monique, for instance, has another meeting at 2:00. So we can continue the conversation a little bit, but let's quickly get to these 2 questions that's there. And I would love to have your input in it, Reinhard, Jane, as well as Irina, please. So the first one is from Monique, who says, really freaked out since I'm continuing to work from home. Big expectations from employers, while also having to take care of the kids during the day. Online meetings are so difficult to remain professional. Also not fair to expect 4 and 6-year-old to adjust to not just get attention the entire day. Trying to take turns with a hubby to be on duty and allow at least one of us to have dedicated focused time on work things. And they are so hungry all the time. Full work days going strong this side. So from my side, all I can say from my experience, I've been working from home since my little one was 4. And I realized that when I take time and I say to him, right, 10:00, we're going to have a break. We're going to have a snack, and I'm going to love you and cuddle you and spend 15 minutes just with you. And then after that, I have to go work for another hour or so. To me, that worked.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Reinhard?
Yeah, I mean, with what Irina said, just if I can correct myself, I'm not saying don't watch Netflix at all.
No.
But if you're going to watch 10 hours of Netflix, I will guarantee you within 7 days, even if you're 6-year-old, you'll go mad, or the parents will be mad. So I mean, yes, it's a wonderful thing, and social media is great, but there must be other things as well.
Absolutely.
Question, I think, Monique, within a day or 2, most employees will catch on, because they'll probably be in the same space, so now people are still brave and like, oh yeah, keep up the work, so yes, we try, we obviously want to, everybody wants to, but everybody's be in the same boat, I think the other thing, and I think of Simon Sinek, the people who I like to love to watch Simon Sinek's videos, and he makes life very simple. And I think as parents, we sometimes complicate life. I talk to my children, they joke with me, and we didn't do it with our children, but they talked about the parent, maybe it's a little bit still the same, but the past 20 years, how we in a Western society raise it is that the poor kids are fragile. Everybody comes first, everybody needs to get a prize, and we just what's going to happen today? My father and my aunts and everybody's, if you're my age and if you're half my age, your grandfather and grandmothers, they survived apartheid, for those who did. They survived the Second World War. I mean, we are tougher, and to teach your kids, that life is, cotton wool does not help them. Last year I'm busy writing a book about my dad for my own kids because they didn't know him. And I went to Germany, I spoke to my aunt about how it was in the wartime or after the war. And she said at school, after the war, the world wanted to help Germany not to be starting any wars again, but let's leave that. But they had feeding schemes. And so the planes would come over and drop potatoes in the field. The kids had to go out of school and their job was to pick up potatoes that people can eat. I think sometimes we're doing a disservice to our children by making life so easy for them. You do not help your children by doing this. We want to protect our children from harm and danger. We definitely want to do that. But don't protect your children by making life easy for them. You are not protecting them. You are harming them. So in this stage, get them involved. We're all going to go through this together. It's a great opportunity for everybody's children who has grown up in the area where life is so sweet and awesome. So maybe you realize this, hey, food doesn't, come from Woolworths. Somebody actually makes those things. It's not re-wrapped. Somebody pulls potatoes. Amazing. Maybe I come
Thanks,
up with
Reinhard. Yeah, I think those are good points.
Yeah, Irina?
Just looking at our time.
Yeah, no, right. And I was just tongue in cheek about the Netflix. I think it's a tool that you can use to obviously screen time limit, but I think it's also to negotiate with your children to say, this is a little bit of a different situation. So you will be, when everything's back to normal, or not normal, hopefully a new normal for us will be that you need to do your work. You can't sit on Netflix or anything on the social media the whole time. But I think as well, I think like Reinhard said, I think employers will catch on. But I think it's also, it is our responsibility as employees as well as to make sure that we communicate the challenges that we face. Not to make an excuse or anything like that, but the reality is it's uncharted ground. We've never been in this situation, and it's the time, spending the time with your children at home now will actually make such an impact on their lives. 2020 will be one of those monumental moments in families if you allow it to be. I think it will be a dreaded time, or it can be an incredible time of growth as a family together with wonderful memories that you've built, not because mom and dad was there 24/7, because we've learned how to do things for ourselves and we've learned how to work together as a family, which is one of the things that has broken down so tremendously in our world. And I think it's just an opportunity that we have, that we've been given, to say, how do we pull together as a family, as a community, even though we can't see each other face to face and touch each other, but how do we actually communicate? And what other skills do we have that we don't even know we have? What other skills can we learn? It's such a wonderful opportunity for us to take hold of if we choose to, and say, you know what, we are tough. South Africans are tough. We're going to get this. And we're going to look back and say, it was actually a great time, yes, with challenges, yes, but it made us think out of the box. It made us think more with initiative, come up with our own initiative, and include our children in it. Don't just tell them what they need to be thinking, get them to think. And get them to research things, even from little, if you have an older sibling, research of how we can do things differently, or do something in the garden if we have a garden, or how can we make something because we don't have the normal Woolies foods or whatever, how do we actually make a cake from the beginning, not from the packet, let's research it. Skills that the children can learn, get them to knit, get them to sew again, all those kind of things, depending on your family and your situation. I think this can be such a time where we not just survive, but we thrive, And as parents, we are the first educator for our children, and should always be the first educator for our children. And it's just with a little bit of a different take now. And I think we can grab hold of that and say, yes, we've got it. And we're going to figure it out. And I'm sending ideas to my parents and making sure that they have fun things that they can do with the children. But in the end, it's finding the new rhythm in your family, the new normal, and saying, we're going to breathe together. We don't have to hold our breath for 21 days. Just breathe, and we're going to do it. And we're going to push the reset button many times a day sometimes, like I do in my classroom. Sometimes I'm like, okay, girls, let's get together. And we just reset the day if we don't feel like it's been going the right way. We do deep breathing. We have some meditation music on, lie down on the mat or whatever. And if you need to do that to connect with your child, do that, because you've got to stay calm.
I love that. Irina, let's do one last question, the other question that we have, and we can discuss that, and then we will finalize our conversation for this week. So our second question is from Edna, and she asks, do you have a schedule that you can suggest, for example, from wake-up time to bedtime, and what good use of times there are? Irina, I think you should go first with this one.
Okay. I think for schedule, I think it is a great opportunity for us to have breakfast together as a family. When you have teens, it's a little bit more difficult, but if you have younger children, but again, with your schedule, I think every family will have their own schedule that they have to figure out. I think, Jennifer, you, on your last webinar, you had put down the one website where it actually has a whole program that you can follow. But I think, again, you have to be honest with yourself. Don't put yourself under pressure of like, okay, well, we're up at 8, 9 o'clock, we do this, 10 o'clock. For some people that really works, and for some it doesn't work at all. But I think do have regular waking up times, and have connect time with your children if you can. If it helps you to get up earlier, do some work, and then wake the children up, do that. Get them to make their beds, even from little. If you've made your bed and you've gone to shower, put on some clothes, you're ready for your day. I think the whole idea of pajama day for 21 days, wonderful idea, very unproductive. Okay. Not going to get any.
Not a good idea.
It will be fun for 2 days, I promise you. And then you're going to want to pull your hair out. So choose days that you can have pajama day with the children, but don't allow them to have pajama day all the time either. They need structure. A child that has structure and boundaries feels more safe and secure. So if we want to help our children to feel calm, put the structures in place that will help them to feel calm. And I think, so your schedule, you've got to work out with your work as well. Maybe you're in a fortunate position where you can work early in the morning and then take a little bit of a break mid-morning and then work in the afternoon or in the evening when they've gone to bed again. But regular bedtime, regular waking up time, those are important, especially for your younger children. And then, give them activities that they can do. Sit down and work out either a project that they're going to do together as a family. Maybe the one wants to find out more about unicorns, and you're like, well, unicorns, if that's what their interest is, make the education part of your day really something that's from within them, because then you can be able to engage them, involve them in the chores in the house. From the age of 1, you can involve them in chores, whether it's just picking up the toys with you and you make it a little game, you can do a little song. Have brain breaks for yourself and for your children. You can put Google brain breaks for kids. They are fun to do for adults as well. You look silly and your children will love it. They'll first be like, oh gosh, Mom, you're so embarrassing, or Dad, you're so embarrassing. But in the end, they will love that connect time. Do kiddies yoga for yourself with your children. So I think it's just readjusting. Instead of just having your coffee break, have your coffee break with a connect with your child again by either reading to them, and that I cannot stress enough how much, just read to your children with them, give them books to read, give the little ones paper to draw on where they can make their own storybooks. Doesn't matter whether they can read the words, but having books there and just getting to read as much as possible will do incredible it will be it's so important for our country actually for all of us just to read. And there's also some lovely YouTube videos, and there's a new one that I was looking at yesterday evening, Storyline Online, and it is actually our very well-known actors that actually takes the time and reads a children's book. It is brilliant. Wonderful. And it's fun because, who can read a book like, one of their favorite actors maybe. So I think just figure out your schedule, figure out what you have to get done in your day. No one can work from 8 o'clock till 6 o'clock in the evening without a break. It's unproductive. So make sure that you are taking regular breaks and use those breaks to connect and maybe reset your day again if you need to. I think you've got to figure it out for yourself. And today it might work and tomorrow might be a disaster with the same plan. So for me, it's not make a plan for the next 21 days. It's make a plan for tomorrow. And if in the evening you can get ready for the plan for tomorrow, then you can work with tomorrow. Every day will have its own challenges, and just be kind to yourself.
Yeah. I know, for instance, my 12-year-old Alexander said to me the other day, Mom, I can't understand how parents don't get their children to read. Just turn off the volume on YouTube. They'll be reading in no time. So, Reinhard, do you have something to add to this scheduling question?
No, I fully agree with Irina. You got to create a rhythm, But and I love the 1 day pajama day. That's cool. But get dressed. Make your bed. There's this wonderful video once about American general who wrote one of the best things you can do in your life is to get up, get dressed, and make your bed. And he has a long video about why it's important, but it's one of those motivational videos, very good.
Yeah.
But maybe with Jennifer, we can maybe post with Irina a list of fun activities. Obviously different ages. I'll think about the more older ones. I'm looking outside. Do a bird list. Bird list. Get your kids to do creative things other than build stuff. Maybe we can create a list of interesting things kids could do. And for different families, different things are possible. We totally understand it. I love Irina's thing about reading. Actually take a book and read it. Not just your kids read it, but read your children. One of my best memories in life is every night my dad's job was, to say the Our Father. My dad wasn't a very religious guy, but he could remember the Our Father in German. So I learned the Our Father in German. And he had to read a story in German. And I thought it was so special, read stories to your children, You don't have to do it in German. You can do it in Xhosa and Zulu and English too. It's okay. But
thanks, Reinhard.
We want to outsource it to Netflix. Read to your kids. It's awesome.
Yeah. We've lost Jane again.
Jane,
Serena, we
lost again. If I can just suggest as well, it's like a lot of times we feel like we need to have the educational toys so that the children can learn. But just actually opening your pots and pan cupboard, your Tupperware cupboard, your boxes in your grocery cupboard, it's incredible what the children can learn from those cupboards. Their shoes, get dad's shoes and teach them to tie shoelaces. It's little things like that we don't necessarily have time for usually. And it doesn't mean that we're going to have the time to do it now either, but just getting them to sort the groceries out, for instance, or getting the spoons and the forks and the knives, getting them to rearrange all of that and to put it together and count how many forks we have and how many butter knives we have. Those kind of things are natural ways of teaching our children. And very easy. And, if you don't have puzzles, take a Kellogg's box and cut it up into puzzle pieces. And they can build a puzzle. Yeah, there's so many things that we can do, even when we are not well resourced in our own homes.
I'm thinking, with the puppet show thing, let your kids do the puppet show to you.
Absolutely.
They need to write the story and do the puppets with the socks or whatever. But I love Irina's ideas. They are awesome.
Yeah.
For you young, Irina is still a bit younger than me. But
you wish.
we grew up through this. We never had PlayStation. We never had WhatsApp. And here we are, wonderful. We made it. We played with mud and cotton, Tupperware, pots and pans,
Modder cookies bak.
Baking
mud cakes in English. Yes, we all did that. So just to let our audience know that we've decided to really split these ages. There was a question, what about older kids? Now, we're definitely going to get to that. We do believe that for the older, the teenagers and the students, there are different websites to go on to, live lectures and so on. And we'll be doing this in the coming weeks. I created a poll earlier today asking when shall we do it? And I see most people are saying that they would like to see us weekly speaking about education, speaking about yourself, how to handle yourself, Reinhard, where you are so good at. Irina, Reinhard, thank you so much for being here. We do appreciate it so very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
So Jane and I are busy I will speak to you in a moment, Reinhard.
Sorry.
Jane and I are busy putting together a Facebook group where we're going to be putting all these links as they come up, and you will be able to add to it. And together we'll have a community full of thinkers who think the same. And we look very forward to welcoming you there. Please give us a day or two. We're just finalizing color schemes and so on. And then we will let you all know. But in the meantime, we'll all be here next week. Reinhard, you wanted to say something?
Last bit of real practical advice: change the Wi-Fi password. But today, if you do what is good for a day, you get the new password for the next day.
That's a good idea for the older kids especially. Okay, so Irina, anything as a last mention from you?
I think we've got it. I think just every day, just say, I've got this. I can do this, and believe in the power that you have as a parent is stronger than any other power that we need. So I think we just need to remember that these are our children. We love them dearly, and we can figure it out. It is a very stressful time for many people. It's uncharted territory for us. But every day, just sitting down and saying, today, what am I going to do? What am I going to allow my children to do? How much time can I spend with them today? How am I going to break it up for the day? And then saying, you know what, that restart button, we can just go back and say, let's quickly get a family meeting together. We need to relook at how we need to work things. Because the fact is, someone in your family or in your household might get sick. Someone in your family extended that's not in your house at the moment might get sick, and you need to go and take care of them. We don't know how this is going to develop. We don't, we have no idea what a lockdown is going to look like even for us. Each one again has their own idea of what the lockdown is going to be like. And that might not be anywhere what it's going to be like for us. So I think for each one of us, just to every day say, you know what, today I've got this. And if it was a bad day, it was a bad day. Move on. We're going to go and restart the next day a better day. And sometimes we have to break it up in our sections like that. So I think just we're strong, we're tough, we're going to be able to do this. And I think our children are going to be able to come back to school whenever that is. And we're going to have a very different kind of child if we all put energy into really helping our children to do things for themselves that they can. And you'll be amazed at what age they are able to take care of certain things by themselves. So that's what I think.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Reinhard, anything
Thank
from
you,
your
Jennifer.
side?
No, I think Irina said it all. I'm happy, and we'll get through this.
Yes.
Fantastic. I feel the same way. Jane, any last words from your side?
No, just super grateful and excited that, you know, we can have a community and that we can have something that can encourage people through this time. You know, I think collaboration it's there in the workplace, but it's there at home too. We need each other, and really appreciate Reinhard and Irina, you sharing your knowledge, your expertise, your wisdom. Very encouraging for all of us. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everybody,
Great.
and have a wonderful rest of the day. We'll speak to you again next week.
Yep.
Bye.
Awesome. Take care. Okay. Bye.
Bye, Jane. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today.